everybody. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Get Ready. Today, I am happy to have as my guest my own personal coach and someone that I met some time ago. We'll talk a little bit about how we connected, but let me first tell you a little bit about her. Elena Herdieckerhoff is an award-winning serial entrepreneur and successful TEDx speaker with almost 4 million views on YouTube. In her TEDx talk, she explains why we need to change the prevalent cultural narrative around highly sensitive people. As a highly sensitive person, HSP herself, her big mission is to create a love revolution led by caring souls to affect global change and raise human consciousness to the next level. In her work as an acclaimed intuitive coach and business mentor, she empowers other HSPs around the world to turn their sensitivity into their greatest asset in life and business. To find out more about her, well, I'm going to have a link in here to take you to all of her great resources. But first of all, welcome to the show, Elena.
Well, hello, my dear Brad. I'm super excited to be here with you.
A little bit different than our call a few days ago, but
so I like it. It's kind of we're taking turns now.
Exactly. Exactly. Today we'll focus on you and what you have to offer. So, how did we first connect?
Well, actually, I can tell you, and I'm not even sure you know this, but I discovered you a long time ago. I think it must have been 8 years ago. Somebody had told me that I should try tapping, and I thought, well, let's check this tapping thing out. And guess who I found?
Can't imagine.
You absolutely can't imagine that. And I started to tap along with you, and you became a trusted virtual friend. Whenever I needed something, you had a video for it. And so I felt like I already knew you long before I actually knew you. And then at the time, a business partner of mine reached out to you, but it was actually because I had introduced her to your work. So I was the instigator behind that. And then we got to know each other a bit better. And then we got to know each other even better when I hosted a summit about leading with love. And about what it means to be in a leadership position and to share and spread love. And after that, the rest is history.
Right. Well, and that was when I got introduced to your coaching, and I had been without a coach for a while, and everybody needs a coach of some sort, some kind of mentor pushing us, because I had gotten very comfortable in my career. And a lot of the business coaching out there was this push, find the pain points kind of stuff. And you had a very different approach, and I just really resonated with that. And you have pushed me in a loving way to up level my game, which I greatly appreciate, and which has allowed me to benefit more people. So greatly appreciate that. So how did you get into this field? What pushed you in this direction?
Well, it actually started when I was a little girl, because I grew up with an entrepreneurial father, and he modeled to me what being an entrepreneur is all about. And from an early age, he encouraged me one day to follow my passions and to become an entrepreneur. So I had this great fortune of this role model of this is something you can become. And so right out of college, I already was pretty sure that this is what was going to happen for me. And because I have multiple interests and I'm multi-passionate, I didn't just stick to one business. I actually created several businesses in my life as a sensitive entrepreneur. And one of the biggest businesses I created was an international skincare brand. And when I sold that business, many people came to me and said, "Oh, you're so sensitive. How could you build such a business? How did you do that? Weren't you scared to raise all that money and to have operations in different countries and to have staff?" And especially people who knew me well, they were like, "How can somebody so sensitive kind of make it and be successful, and you didn't become hard in the process, and you didn't become a pushy person in the process?" And I thought, well, hang on a minute. I'm surely not the only highly sensitive person out there that is in the entrepreneurial space. And the more I looked around, the more I saw that many, many highly sensitive people actually look to entrepreneurship because they have special gifts to share with the world, because they have a very caring soul and know that whatever they're gifted at could benefit others. But many get stuck in the how to do business, because the way business is taught, as you well know, especially on the online space, is a lot about the hustle culture. And
Yes.
who can push harder, who can scream louder, who can be more rah rah, who can be more 24/7 round the clock. And to a sensitive person, that doesn't work, that doesn't flow, and we're not attracted by all this blueprint marketing, like 6 figures in 6 days plans and all this kind of thing. It just doesn't work for a sensitive person. And so I thought, how about I go to my fellow HSPs and share my way of how I built successful businesses in the past. And that's when I started mentoring highly sensitive entrepreneurs. And it's something I love doing, because I think we can create almost a counterculture to what is out there and show that you can lead with love and integrity and intuition and be as successful as maybe the other type of entrepreneur that's out there.
It makes me wonder, just thinking of this, that there's a part of us as human beings that don't don't completely resonate with that hustle thing, and maybe HSPs are just more aware of it, and those folks who are pushing more, and I'm not saying, I don't know this for sure, but I just wonder at what level it may be, there may be a certain denial of something going on and a certain disconnect that might be happening, that HSPs, that's one of their powers is, yeah, I'm not gonna, I can't go there.
That's right. And you know, HSPs have this unique ability to tune into what feels right and what feels true. And hustle culture doesn't feel true to us because what we feel is that it's based on fear, and it's based on not being good enough. Usually it's you have to strive harder, you have to push more to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be taken seriously. And I think the more sensitive you are, the more in tune you are with your own heart. And your heart can feel that there is no resonance to fear, but there is a resonance to love. And so it seems like a more natural direction for sensitive people to follow the kind of bigger stream that flows towards love than to hop on the speed train that takes you to fear.
Well, considering it as about not resonating with fear, and part of me said, well, but so many people do, and it's not necessarily that we resonate with it, but it's familiar.
That's
And that's
right.
what our mind likes, what's familiar. And we live in a culture that has so much fear mentality, the media, politics, certainly a huge amount of advertising, a lot of programs, television and movies have a fear base, this
Yeah.
adrenaline rush. And so while it may not resonate with our heart, it feels familiar to our mind. And so when people are in that hustle mentality and there's that fear base, it's like, well, yeah, that's normal. Just like stress
That's
feels
how it
normal
is.
for us. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the status quo. That's just how it is, and that there is no other way. And you're right. Fear is deeply imprinted in our psyche. It gets re-imprinted every single day when you open your Facebook news feed, when you look at the news in general, when you talk to people. It's everywhere. And it's not to say that highly sensitive people don't respond to fear or don't feel fear. It's just that it's not how we thrive. It's not how we are able to share our gifts from that place. It's a constrictive energy place. To create from that, from not enoughness, is quite hard, actually. So it's an easier journey if we align with our deeper inner knowing versus our fear-based mind is to align with our heart, and to see that our heart usually has better answers than our fearful mind does.
And I know for some people watching this, they may be thinking, I'm sorry, we're talking about business, we're talking about heart, because those are two separate things. There's business, and certainly we get a lot of messages about how, if you're going to be successful in business, it has to be this way, and the heart has little to do with it. Now, you've certainly helped me up level my game, and that's from a much more heart-centered place than from the business coaching that I had tried to get elsewhere. So I know that it benefits for me, and I don't necessarily identify myself as an HSP, although I think because of the work that I've done over the years with tapping, I'm a little more, perhaps more in tune with certain things than other folks. Not everybody. I'm not certainly not. I'm so much better than everybody else. Not remotely that. But I've cleared a lot of stuff for myself, so I'm in tune with a lot more than a lot of us are with the kind of stress and fear mentality that runs rampant through society. So, and there's a point in there someplace.
Might I just say, you are right to say that it's not just highly sensitive people, and that's very important for me to say that too. It's anybody who resonates with being in tune with their true nature, because everybody's true nature is love.
Thank you.
It's everybody who resonates with their intuitive voice, who's empathic, who maybe is more sensitive to energies, even if they're not highly sensitive, who's just generally maybe more attuned to life, to people, to also the world around them, and anybody who has a caring nature, I would count as somebody who would probably thrive more if they chose the path of love than the path of fear.
Right. And that's just a great point, because I mean, ultimately, and I agree with you, at our core, it's love. And to be able to bring that into all aspects of our lives, instead of saying, well, I bring love into my relationships and I bring love into my self-care, but business, no, that's a totally different thing. But what if it wasn't?
That's right. And that's something that's interested me a lot, because usually people think that if you lead your business from a place of love, it means you give everything away. It just means you're offering free stuff. It means you can't charge for your services, that it means these kind of things, or worse, that it means being a total pushover. And none of these things are true. Love is a forceful energy in and of itself. Love has its own drive, and it's just a shift of, it's like a different lens, if you like. So for example, some of the guiding principles, I think, of leading with love in your business are like the following. It's valuing your intuition over your intelligence, understanding that there's a difference between a mindset upgrade and a heart set, so that you can upgrade your mindset all you want, but if you're still in your heart running from a constricted place of fear, your mindset will not overcome that. It's if you are in alignment within, then you can move into what I feel is the big shift in business that's possible, is to go from a push energy where everything you do, you have to push the boulder up the hill, you have to push hard to make anything happen, to the more pull energy where things actually come to you, where you're more in a receptive mode, and where you also can feel more that magical state that we all know of flow. It's this suddenly things flow and you're like, wow, that worked, and I didn't even have to go crazy to make this happen. Something it just felt right, and people just resonated with me, and it clicks, and it's not this huge, stressful, pushy thing. Suddenly it becomes a thing that works for you, that it comes to you, and that is like almost a paradigm shift of how you perceive business. And I'm here to say you can have an extremely financially robust business and come from a place of love.
Which is an important message for folks, because some people might be thinking, yeah, it sounds nice to have a more loving business, but if it's going to affect my bottom line in a negative way, it's like, well, you can have more love, you'll have less money, but more love, hey, more love, it's worth the less money. It's like, no, it's not. It doesn't have to be that. And I love that you talked about flow. I've been listening to a book by Stephen Kotler recently, who does a lot about peak performance and flow, based a lot on the work of Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. And that state of when we're really working at optimal levels. And that's a more love component than fear. It's not to really achieve at those peak performance levels. There has to be that component that where it really resonates with who we are, which is, we're going to have a hard time finding that if we're just coming from that hustle fear mentality.
Yes. And I think actually the best antidote for the hustle mentality is to lean deeper into self-love, because that's where this alignment begins, that then results in flow in the outer world. It actually begins within. And this is something that, if you go into a bigger conference, and I've done this, and I'm sure many other speakers have said similar things, but when you ask people, who do you love the most? Most people say, my mom, my grandma, my dog, my whoever. Almost nobody would say myself, because that is seen as such a, who would say that? Why would you even say that?
Right.
But you got to be on your own team first. And the more you can deepen that self-love, the more you can trust yourself, and you can trust your intuitive hits, and you'll know which person to call on which day, and you'll feel inspired to launch a certain product or to create something, because it comes from a place of inner alignment. And inner alignment, you get there through loving yourself, and that means really taking care of you and taking care also of your wounds. All of us have those. And this is where I find also any form of trauma therapy can be extremely helpful. Getting a coach to support you, any energy healers, whatever it is to really help you get in touch with your inner truth so that you feel at peace. Because I think the most successful feeling you can have in the world is peace. Because then nothing can disturb you from the outside, or at least to a much lesser degree. And from that place of peace, can you imagine how magical that is for people to come into that energy and into feeling your energy of love? People will naturally migrate to you, and they will want to work with you or hear what you have to say. And I think that is something that if we all can lean into more self-love, then our personal lives get better and our businesses get better.
Well, you're singing my song on that, in terms of the whole, learning to love ourselves more and clearing out all the reasons why we couldn't or shouldn't. And yeah, from that place, we're naturally drawn to create the circumstances in our lives that are most loving towards us, including in our professional lives.
Yeah.
Creating a business that is rewarding emotionally and financially, and really gifting ourselves with what's possible. And in that space, we find the opportunities, we find the people, we find the resources. We're just much more open to that, because we're open to what, and the clients. We draw the best clients to us, because that's the energy we're putting out. It's like, what is it for my highest good?
Yes, that's right. Because it creates a resonance, right? It creates a resonance. And look at you, how lucky I am to have you as a client. This is, that's proof is in the pudding.
As they say. Well, I was thinking as you're talking about the being open to those opportunities and saying, man, it took me a lot of years of tapping before I was open enough to find you.
It's
Sorry, get you right
never
with
too
your drink.
late. Never too late.
All in perfect timing.
That's right. That's right. And you know, it doesn't matter how long it takes. It's like if we can take one step every day towards loving ourselves, then we took one step to changing our experience of life. And I found always it's very helpful when you don't really know where to start with self-love and you're like, how do I even do this? I mean, of course, tap with Brad. That's one
go to
way.
my YouTube channel, duh.
There we go. One fantastic solution. And another one is, and I don't know, this is a long time ago that I read this somewhere and it stuck with me. I wish I could remember where I read that, but it stuck with me, is that you ask yourself the simple question, if I really loved myself, what would I be doing right now? Because that kind of brings it back to, okay, maybe you don't know for yourself really what you want to do or how you should treat yourself, but you can, if you kind of take an almost like an external lens to yourself and think, okay, if I really loved myself, what would I do right now? Because it kind of helps your brain jump out of your own lived experience and look at you from the outside and be like, oh, I'd get myself a glass of water. Oh, I'd actually take a walk in the park right now. Oh, I'd call my best friend, whatever it is. And the more you start asking that, the more you get into the habit of acting in a loving way towards yourself. And that energy then ripples out. And when you love yourself more, you love other people more.
That's what I always say. So often people think self-love is a selfish thing. It's like, it is the greatest gift that you can give others, because the more you love yourself, the more you're going to be able to love other people.
Yeah.
I love that. If I really loved myself, what would I do right now? And even in terms of business, if I really loved myself, what would I do for my business right now? What kind of business would I create? What would I, how would I allow myself to serve?
Yes. And that's actually a really great question to ask yourself if you're, especially in the early stages of creating your business, like what would your business, if your business loved itself and you love your business, what would you put out there and what would bring you the most joy and what would give you the most fulfillment? And I've often created things that many people told me couldn't work. They couldn't work because nobody's done this before, or people wouldn't buy this because it's too out there or too this or too that. And I think if you feel it, then it's your truth. And you should give yourself permission to create what you feel, because even if nobody's done it before or it looks like a loopy idea to other people, there will be people that will resonate with that idea if it comes from that inspired, intuitive place.
Right. Yeah. Ask Pablo Picasso about that.
Oh yeah, and I think he might know a thing or two about it. Maybe.
He went off the beaten track and he did okay.
Yeah. And that's why I think break free from the blueprint world where everybody has to follow the 7 steps of business or the 10 ways to do XYZ, because there is your way. And I think as much as we can create our life on our terms, that's true for business just the same.
Yeah. Now that there's, there are templates and things out there that may be useful to as informational things, as guides, but this idea that this is the one way, and forget about what you love, just do this.
Do this,
you'll make
follow
the
steps, and yeah, and the money will come. And usually people come to me after the blueprints, because then they're like, I'm so disillusioned, the blueprints didn't work. And I say, that's your gift, because it means that you are meant to play outside the blueprints and create your own blueprint, which is what we're all here for. We're here to develop our true gift and to develop it in a way that really suits us and our personality and our energy level and our style and our introvert, extrovert. Like nobody says you have to do videos every day. I mean, I couldn't do what you do, Brad. I'm in utter amazement that you do this. And then other people look at me like, oh, I could have never done a TED Talk. I hate public speaking. I couldn't do it, and that's fine. You do what works for you and you deliver it how it works for you. So nobody should feel any pressure that to be successful, they have to have this or that or the other thing. It's find your thing.
Right. The idea that success only comes if, now there's stepping out of your comfort zone.
That's another thing that's important.
So
it's
not that, oh, well, your true path is whatever feels comfortable for you.
Your true path is not being on the couch watching Netflix. That is not your true path.
Right. So just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean that it's not your true path. Because we have a lot of old beliefs and stuff telling us why we couldn't or shouldn't. And so that's why it feels uncomfortable. But yeah, finding that place that, and find those things that resonate, but maybe uncomfortable, but are true to us, as opposed to certain things, some of those blueprint things that, well, it's uncomfortable and it doesn't resonate, but it's what I'm told I'm supposed to do.
That's right. And it's also the more you can tune into your inner knowing, you'll know the difference. If you're really honest with yourself, you'll know the difference. If you're scared of something because it's new and it's uncomfortable, or if you're scared and uncomfortable with something because it's not right for you and it just doesn't feels icky or off. If anything feels that way, that's your inner alarm signal going off saying not your path, not your journey. But if it's just this queasiness, then queasy is good. Queasy means you're going a place you haven't gone to before. But this, I just don't feel it, I'm not resonating, then that's a clear sign this is maybe not your path.
Yeah. And again, to be clear for folks, that doesn't mean it's like, oh, well, that money-making thing doesn't feel right. So obviously I'm just not meant to make money.
No,
you're just not meant to make money in that way. There's a way that can make you far more money and feel so much more right. That's
right. And I think it's so important to not give up on yourself as an entrepreneur in the process. We don't always strike gold with our first idea or our first service. It's about also having tenacity to figure out what it is we want to create and figure out the best way for us and our clients to deliver that. And to put on blinkers to some extent so that you're not overly impacted by what somebody on the left and on the right is doing that's in the same industry as you, so that you can really pull that from your inner creative well and see, okay, what's really my way, and then try it and tweak it and change it until it works, until it feels just right. But definitely the message is never, ever, ever that you can't make money doing what you love.
The universe can provide for you. And it just makes sense when we think about it, that the universe is going to provide for us in the best way, doing what is most right for us.
Yeah. And I found that every time I followed my gut instinct and even gambled on myself and gambled on my idea, I was like, no, I just feel it, that it works. And it just feels so right. And you go with it. It doesn't mean everything is easy. It doesn't mean you don't have setbacks. It doesn't mean people are all going to support you. But it means that you'll get where you need to go. And I think where even destiny wants you to go. Because we're all here, I think, on this planet to do our part and to share the gifts that we were born with. And there will be that unique way for you to share your gifts, and might need tweaking until you get to your sweet spot. But that's also part of the entrepreneurial journey. You don't come ready out of the box with a business that has all the bells and whistles going and that works right out of the gate. And that's okay. I think that's even part of the journey. And I always think that running a business, as you know, Brad, is the biggest self-development project in the world, because it'll bring up your self-worth issues. It'll bring up any visibility issues. It'll bring up any traumas you have about being seen, being heard, creating space for yourself, being bold with your ideas. It will touch every button that you have, no doubt about it. And it can be cathartic. It can be liberating if you allow your business also to serve your soul in that way.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm very grateful for the gifts that you share, and I am grateful that you have come on my show to share them with my audience. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, Brad, and thank you for being in my life.